Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Dash. Welcome to Trenton Makes Music. Today we have a very special guest for our first video interview, jazz legend and music educator Thomas Grice, and he's here today. For those of you who don't know this talented man, he is a saxophone virtuoso who has played with such noted performers as Betty Carter, Ben Riley, and Donald Byrd. He has taught and mentored generations of musicians, including the late Clifford Adams and Michael Ray from Kool and the Gang. Also, he has mentored with Instant Funk Band, and of course our group, Labelle. Since his retirement from the Trenton Public Schools, he continues to teach at the Thomas Grice Academy of Music, and he also continues to perform regularly at jazz venues around town. Welcome to Trenton Makes Music. We are so glad to have you.
I'm glad to be
with
here.
us today.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes. Well, Mr. Grice, I know that you were born in Florida. Can you tell us a little bit about your life down there growing up?
My life in Florida, I was born in a town in the Panhandles in 1929 in a town called Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
Very beautiful town.
Yes.
And I was the ninth child in the family. I lost my father when I was a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And my mother, who was a Navajo Indian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and a very strong woman, a very beautiful woman. In fact, we used to call her the princess.
Okay.
Kept us together as a tribe.
Wow.
And it was hard times. Mm-hmm. My father was one of the first black businessmen downtown Pensacola, Florida, with a cleaning establishment. Mm-hmm. In fact, he had two of them, one downtown and one out of town. Mm-hmm. And when he died, my mother, the business failed. She didn't know anything about the business.
Yes. And
we had to move out from the house that we lived in and moved into a shanty with all 9 kids. But she kept us together.
That's beautiful.
She kept us together.
That's a wonderful story. It really shows survival
but
of a woman.
She always say that she would expect the best.
Okay.
And it was funny, during those times, especially in the black homes, there was always a piano.
Yes.
I don't know why. And there was always a book of encyclopedia.
I can relate to that.
They
Definitely.
were always.
Yes.
It was rare that they could be, but they were there.
The burgundy with the gold writing.
That's right. You
Yes.
can always have it.
Yes.
But there was no instrument, so my brother, Gigi, whose name was George General Grice.
Yes.
And we always called him Gigi Grice.
Okay.
George General Grice.
Okay.
Who later became an outstanding musician. And my mother had to go on what we call WPA, welfare.
Okay.
That was called President Roosevelt, Workman Acts Progress.
Okay.
And it was embarrassing to be on welfare in the school.
Was it?
But not to me. I thought I was good as anyone else.
Well, bringing that to mind, having to rely on the government and growing up with a family of 9 children, having lost all of the business that your father established, what kind of music did you start to listen to when you were younger, and what inspired you to lean toward listening to music?
Well, my mother was a stewardess.
She was a
stewardess.
A stewardess.
In the AME Church, Allen Chapel AME Church.
Oh, okay.
And we all had, all 9 of us, she was like little Indians.
Okay.
Going,
like you were?
Yeah, going from our house 2 miles to church to Sunday school.
Okay.
And then we stay and meet her at 11 o'clock service.
Yes.
And then we come home, and then we go back at night.
Okay.
So the music that I was exposed to was sacred music.
Okay.
I heard no form of jazz. In fact, we could not play a game of checkers or if it was dice throwing, anything was related to gambling.
Okay, so the secular world was
Secular world was
Yes.
out of that was out of the picture.
yes. So now, so you couldn't do that, and she wouldn't let you listen to or play games. What they call being in the world. That's what
The
they call
worldly
it.
games.
Yes. So how did you get away from that, and what steered you to the secular music?
Well, let me tell you, every Saturday, my mother would have us after we take our bath, and she would sit in her chair and just rock.
Yes.
And each one of us had to do something to display our talent.
Okay.
Whether we recite our alphabets, whether to do the timetables, whether to say a poem or sing a song. My brother Gigi and I used to sing "His Eyes Was on the Sparrow," and we sang all the songs we learned in Sunday school.
Okay.
And we would roll up paper magazine, Life magazine and Post magazine, and hum them through as if we had instruments.
Okay.
And so all the marches we had down to pat.
Okay.
And one day, there was an announcement came over the intercom system while I was in junior high school
Okay.
that there was a fellow by the name of Ray Shepard
Okay.
coming out of Fisk University who had played with Jimmy Luxford Band,
Oh wow.
who would be teaching music instruments. And my brother came in to my class and said, "Thomas, this is our chance." And I said, "Gigi, you must be kidding."
Mama's gonna kill us.
Yeah, when mama would get home, we don't have any kind of money. She don't have any money to
Yes.
buy an instrument. But we went anyhow. And when we walked in that auditorium, the kids just fell out.
Did they?
You know, they ridiculed us.
Oh, because they knew about your church background.
They knew about the church background.
And the
They
strict
knew about
life.
that we didn't have an instrument.
Yes, yes.
And we didn't tell Shepard we didn't have an instrument.
Okay.
So a man by the name of Mr. Long, who worked
Okay.
for the railroad station, had a son, was a good friend of my brother's, and Chappie James' nephew, Thomas James. Chappie James was the first black
Yes.
Air Force general.
Yes,
we went to
Chappie was part of the
his whole family went to my church.
Oh, is
And
that
his
right?
oldest sister, Betty and Elizabeth James, Lillian James taught me.
Okay.
And I went to his mother's school.
Okay.
And so he said, "Well, Mrs. Grice, if you could buy a mouthpiece, I would let the boys use Aaron's clarinet." And so I think the mouthpiece was something like 75 cents.
Okay.
And my mother put down 5 cents down
My.
and bought this mouthpiece.
My.
And that's how we got started. And Shep gave private lessons.
Yes.
And as you go out the door, I passed the instrument. I think Aaron, I was the first to play it. When I took my lesson, I would pass it to
Take your
Aaron on the way
mouthpiece
out.
off.
Yeah.
And pass it to the
Yeah,
next
and
student.
Gigi was the last.
Oh, my.
And then, but the thing about it, we both made the band at the same time.
Oh, now that had to be a little
Yeah,
difficult.
that was confusing. So I had to
Yes.
drop out. Me being the youngest,
Oh,
I had to
my.
go out and do something else.
So, okay, now in doing that, you're saying your mom didn't like you playing that secular music. So, did you in any way tell her an untruth to say we're only playing gospel music or church music?
Well, I wasn't introduced to jazz until I was in until I was in the Air Force.
Okay, so how did I'm trying
Because
to
when I went to college, I went to a religious school, which was Wilberforce University,
Oh, okay.
and you could not play jazz
No,
there.
okay.
Although they had one of the best jazz bands in the country. Frank Foster wrote the tune with Count Basie.
Yes,
We
yes.
had an underground dance band.
So there was
And,
a sort of like sneaking all the way
Sneaking
through.
into it.
Yes, all the way
And once
through.
we did that, and I made a commitment to my mother that these songs was only for listening,
Yes.
and they was not for the feet.
Dancing.
Yeah, they're not for dancing.
Okay.
And she accepted that. And not
Probably
the club.
knowing all along that there could be something else going on.
It could be, yeah,
Yes.
behind it. But that's the only way we got into jazz.
Oh, so now having jazz in your life at this point, who was your saxophone hero, or who did you pattern your playing after? Did you have someone that you really looked up to and tried to be?
Yes, it was a saxophone player by the name of Johnny Hodges.
Okay.
And a saxophone player by the name of Ben Webster.
Okay.
And naturally, as I grew into jazz, I listened to other players, bebop players, Charlie Parker, and all that. And
Yes.
I was always trained to listen to all kinds of music.
Okay.
Rock and roll music, and swing and music and funk. There was a lot of my mother said, get all the ammunition you can get in your warehouse.
Yes.
So if you go to battle, you have it.
Okay.
So don't be limited to one type of things.
Yes. Yes.
So she used to say,
And that was very good advice.
right, don't be a master do all things
yeah,
and a master of none.
Master.
That's what
A jack of trades.
Jack of all trades and a
And
master
of none.
Yeah,
Yes.
learn one trade.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Well,
yeah.
speaking of that, you decided to be educated at Wilberforce and to be a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So how important was it not to just go off and play music? Well, how important was your education to you?
Oh, very educational. Very, very important. I knew I could not play and be on the road at the same time.
Okay.
And one thing, I never wanted to disappoint my family. And I didn't want anything to hurt my mother. And she sent me off to college with, I think, $35 sold up in all the way to Ohio from Florida.
Okay.
To a cold state like Ohio with $25 and a shoebox with an apple, some bologna sandwiches, and all that, and to get an education.
Yes.
And she didn't send me up there to drop out.
Yes. Yes. Now, see that your mother being the kind of woman that she is,
Yeah.
and was, I'm sorry, and having someone as determined as you, did she see that you were willing to educate yourself and to get the education part of your life before you would go into the world? Did she
yes.
see the importance in you? And she encouraged you by giving you that money. But what else did she do in terms of keeping you there?
Well, she would always, my family motto,
Okay.
of the 9 children, we all was educators.
Okay.
We were fortunate.
That's beautiful.
Every last one of us
That
were
is
educators.
so beautiful.
And our family motto, she expect the best.
Expect the best.
Not to be you're better than someone,
But the best.
but give it all you got.
In you, the best in you.
That's right.
And when you have the best in you, I'm sure you agree with this.
That's right.
That you will always strive to be better.
And she would always say, always have a plan. Whatever do, make up a plan, but take God with you.
Yes. Yes.
That was the plan.
Yes.
But you can't do it by yourself.
No, you can't.
That's it.
You can't do it. And I find that prayer is very important.
Prayer is very important.
In everyone's life.
In everybody's
And
life.
as you said earlier when you sat down, that we as musicians have to always have a spiritual life because there are so many devious things that happen.
So many devious
Yes.
things.
Could you
so
tell
many,
us about one of those stories?
Yeah, so
What
many-
a devious story in your life?
Oh, so many doors will be closed to you. So many things that you expect to do this, or you put down. Well, my first experience in preparation, I found that music. I bought a brand new instrument, and I was in Cleveland, Ohio. I went to this jam session, and all these saxophone players, Ted Dameron was there, and a lot of them guys were there. And I said, could I sit in? And the guy, I took out my horn out, and before I took my horn out, the guy said, wow, what a beautiful horn this is. and he started putting it back in the case. He said, when you learn to play it good as I, you come back. To me, that would have been devastating to a weak person.
Yes.
But I'm a person who is motivated
Yes.
by
Challenges.
challenging.
Yes.
And don't tell me what I can't do.
Yes.
I come back on you.
Yes.
It's not envy.
No,
or
but it's
revenge,
a determination.
But it's just determination.
A
I'm going to
determined
determine
spirit.
it.
Yes.
I'm going to do it, and that's what I did.
Well, you know, well, how did you practice? Even, and I'm getting back to your mom again. Even if, oh no, well that wouldn't make sense because you answered that. Okay, so tell me another devious story, perhaps something like when you were on the road and you were playing with all these jazz bands and
Well, I knew.
And where did you go? Where did you travel?
I traveled. Well, at the beginning, I went out with Horace Silvers.
Okay.
I was supposed to go out with Horace Silvers.
All right.
My brother told me that no, you're not going to travel because he was already into that music field. He said, Thomas, you're not going to travel. You're not going to go there. You're going to go into teaching.
So Gigi sort of guided you all
he
along?
laid the law down to me.
Oh, he did.
He said, you're going to get married. Now, when I got married, that's when I was allowed to travel in the summertime from when I started teaching. Every summer I was fortunate.
I'm missing something here.
Yeah.
Gigi guided your life into
He
marriage?
guided
Did he help you decide who you were going to marry?
Yes.
He did.
He practically decided.
So now, where did you get married? I know you lived in New York for a while, and I know you. Then you.
I met my wife when at Central State College, which was Wilberforce.
Okay.
And the first time I met her, we were sophomores.
Okay.
And I was just coming out the service. And when I saw her, I was sitting down talking with some of the athletes and fraternity brothers, and I looked and saw this fine young lady
Okay.
standing in line going to eat. And I said, there goes my wife. They laughed at me.
Okay.
And so let's say that's she's from Trenton, New Jersey.
So that's how you wound up here?
Well,
you followed her back to Trenton?
I did.
Okay.
But let me finish this.
Okay.
I went to I had to make up class.
Okay.
She didn't like me at first, and I didn't care that much for her.
Naturally, we don't like you right away.
Yeah, because she looked at me strange.
Okay.
And she looked at me downward. That made me say, well, there are other flowers to pick. But I invited her for a milkshake and a hamburger. And I had the money for everything. I thought I did, but I came up short with the hamburger.
Okay.
So I left her stranded with the bill. And she had to help chip in. But then I said, well, I blew it.
This is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Finish the rest. I want to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, you leaving a woman to pay her bill.
Well, I had to do it.
You weren't into washing dishes at that time.
Yeah. I told her, I said, well, I'm going to wash dishes. I don't know what you're going to do. But then when we walked out the restaurant on campus, she said, I understand that you play gigs on these
Saxophone.
on the weekends.
On the weekends. Okay.
How much do you make? And I said, oh, this woman,
Smart lady.
she's just a woman of something
Smart
else.
lady.
But I told her I'd make $5 or $6. So she said, bring me your money, I'll put you on a budget. And that's what started right there.
Amazing.
That's right.
She started taking care of you.
We started taking care of each
other. Okay.
She taught my heart how to sing.
She taught your heart
And it
how
taught me
to
a lot.
sing.
That's right.
That is a beautiful commentation to a woman who was in your life for many years. I understand.
It'll have been 62 years coming December.
My goodness.
Right.
So did the two of you live in New York, and then you came to
We both
Trenton?
lived in New York because I went to New York to work on my master's at Columbia Teachers College.
Okay.
And we lived in New York, but she got a job teaching here in Robbinsville, New Jersey. And then I came over and started, I was working at the on Stuyvesant Avenue.
Was there a school there?
No, it was the institution, mental institution.
Oh, yes.
I did
Trenton,
that in the museum. Yeah.
Trenton Psych Center.
Yeah.
Yes.
Psychiatric hospital.
Yes,
and
yes.
then I was doing substituting teacher.
So you didn't teach the moment you got to Trenton?
No.
What were some of the issues with that? I mean, you follow her. She was already teaching.
Oh, she was already teaching.
You came and you took a job at the Trenton Psychiatric Hospital,
yeah.
Playing on the side.
Playing on the side.
What were some of the challenges that kept you from getting a teacher's job right away? Was it your decision or?
It was a segregation.
Okay.
There was no room for a black music teacher at that time. Mm-hmm. I was the first black instrumental teacher hired in Trenton.
So that's when I met you.
That's right.
And that was at Junior 5.
At Junior 5.
We have a picture of me playing violin. They call me the polka dot girl because I left Junior 5 and I went to the orchestra. You said, get in that orchestra.
That's right.
You told me to get in the orchestra.
That's right.
I was singing on the side. It felt a little bad because I'm like, Mr. Grice, he cared so much. Because you're teaching, I remember you as a teacher in Junior 5 as if it was yesterday. And I want to tell you, I've never had an opportunity to tell you what you did for me as a young teenage girl. Of course, I was home with both parents, and I told you, you said, your mother and father? I told you who my father was, being a preacher and in the church. And he said, you said, that's what's different about you. And you let me bring the violin home. And my mother was saying to me, she said, you like this, Mr. Grice? I said, yeah. I said, but really, Mom, I want to sing. I didn't really want to play the violin. But you gave me the encouragement to keep going because your teaching skills were like a big brother, and you never let us feel bad about not knowing what we were doing. You said, if you put that third finger there and you put it here, now you bear down on that string. And you gave us our first concert ever in the orchestra in Junior 5.
Junior 5.
And there were many people who came to see this black teacher with the orchestra. The strings were pitiful.
They were pitiful.
They were pitiful. We looked at each other that night and I started laughing and I put my head down and kept soaring. But you did a lot for me as a teenager.
Well, thank you.
You know, and I, like you, I come from a large family as well. I'm 7 of 13 children. The first song my mother taught me to sing was His Eye is on the Sparrow.
No kidding.
I sat here and listened to all of the similar things that we had growing up. So you're encouraging me, Mr. Grice, to continue because.
Well, I was accused by my supervisor when I taught. She said, "Stop teaching yourself."
Really? What did she mean by that?
She meant that you saw what failure that you had or struggle you had. You was looking at that child as if you was teaching yourself that you're not going to let him go or her fall out of the nest.
Yes, and that was encouraging to many because that brings me to the point of the late Clifford Adams and what, the energy that he felt about you and the way he expressed his love for you as someone who gave him the ability to go out and to work with one of the top groups in the country. We all sing Celebration. Yeah. We all, Kool and the Gang. Clifford Adams loved you. What would you say to him today if he was sitting here?
Clifford was an unusual kid, just like you.
Yes.
When I saw them at Junior 5, I used to go around and I said, buzz through your lips. And they said, well, I say, meet me downstairs. I put an instrument in his hand. And I put that trombone. And he started sliding. He said, I don't like that. I said, you're going to like this instrument. I said, you're not going to let me down. Okay. And then he stayed across the street.
Okay, he couldn't
Right,
get away.
I could walk right
he
out
could
the
not
door.
get away.
Yeah, so I followed Clifford's career, and that they sort of anything after school. I always had time for them.
Okay.
I had time for them on the weekends.
Beautiful.
And I used to where I used to play in the clubs. I get special permission to let them come to hear where I was playing
Yeah.
and hear what I was doing, and let me see. They saw that they could go places without participating what other folks was doing. Cause I never been a drinker,
Okay.
drinker, or a smoker.
Okay.
And they saw me go up, take care on the bandstand, take care of business, sit down until the next set, and I told them this is what I do.
And so you dispelled most of the rumors about what musicians did.
That's right.
At that
I
time.
say, let your light so shine before men,
Beautiful.
that others may see your work and glorify His name through you.
So the Spirit of God has definitely played a role.
Oh yes,
in your survival.
and still playing a
and
role.
still
in my
playing.
life.
Yes, I understand you're teaching Bible class.
Oh yes.
On Wednesdays.
On Thursdays.
On Thursdays.
Yeah.
Today is Thursday.
Today
yes.
is Thursday.
At Shiloh.
At Shiloh.
Shiloh
from
Baptist
12 to
Church.
1, but I had an eye operation, so I got an excuse. I got Diane Holloway.
Okay.
I taught her in the 3rd grade.
Oh.
Reverend Holloway, Dr. Reverend Holloway.
Okay.
And I got her to take my place.
Now, did she study music under you?
No, I had her first. She didn't study music under me. My first assignment was a 3rd grade teacher.
That's right.
I was
Yes.
held in the 3rd grade until they found a place for me in junior 5.
Now, was that in what school was that? Do you remember?
At junior 5.
That was at junior 5?
Yeah, junior 5 elementary.
Okay. That's wonderful. Mr. Grice, you know, we have so many things to talk about when it comes to family. And could you give us a little more about Gigi, what he did, the famous people he worked with, or the notable people he worked with? I know he had a strict pattern over your life, but tell us some of the things that he did in music.
Well, he was a very studious young man.
Okay.
And he was a very determined young man.
Okay.
And he had a business air about him. He was very compassionate. He taught me how to share. And he also taught me how to be humble. He always that you didn't make it on your own. And he was always taught me to, whatever you do it as, get a routine and do it. We never discussed music per se.
Okay.
But he says, since you in this field, don't play around with it.
Okay.
Stick with it and practice, practice, and practice. That's the only thing he said.
And I would think that Clifford Adams got a lot of that from Gigi's energy passing down.
Passing on and gave it to Clifford.
To Clifford.
And Clifford gave it to other musicians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Clifford was a wonderful musician.
Yep.
And he had he held you in high esteem. And could you tell us about any other musicians? I know there was Instant Funk.
Well, there was Michael Ray.
Yes.
Playing. There was so many. All my students.
And then the one person.
There's one sitting in the audience now, Angelo.
Hi, Angelo. Yes. The one person who you taught an instrument to decided to sing, being me. Your teaching still played a great role. Just the mere fact that I had a black teacher, because we had Mr. Cooper. He was the only teacher at junior 5 that taught, and he was of another persuasion. So in comes you, Mr. Grice, and you were young at the time, and we knew that, but the one thing that you would not allow us to do was buddy you. You could buddy us, but we couldn't buddy you. And so there was.
Nope.
Yes, we had Miss Good there, Miss Berry as the art teacher at junior 5, but to have a young black male teacher who was just classy and superb. We talked about the way you wore your shirts. You don't know that, and the neckties you wore. Yeah. And you said, I always dress like this. I got a jacket over there. And we go, he's in a suit like the white teachers. You know, But, you know, I have some more questions here. And, you know, some of them here are about the history of your teaching. What was what was your approach and what made you different? No, let me rephrase this. What was different about your approach to teaching music? And did you experience a different kind of feeling when you had a mindset to teach a certain way? Because we know you didn't exactly follow the protocol of teaching.
No, I was reprimanded many times by principals and supervisors that I did not follow protocol. I had to recognize that each student that I taught was an individual.
That was key.
And I had to look at their weakness and their strength. And first of all, if they didn't grow, I was a fertilizer.
Okay.
If I didn't make them grow, I was a weak.
You were not fertilizing
I was
the
not
ground.
fertilizing them right.
Yes, you
So
didn't
I had to
toil the
lead-
ground.
That's right. That's right. I was insistent that they grow and grow and grow. And I just love teaching.
Now, if you found a student that was stuck in a place and wasn't growing, what technique did you use?
Oh, I had many techniques. I
Okay.
had a prescription type teaching, and I would give him a goal to reach.
Okay.
And if he couldn't reach it, I knew I had found other goals.
Okay.
You just don't give up.
Yes.
You just don't give up. in
We
teaching.
need more teachers like you today.
Well, they are. They are.
I'm not, yes, they are. We need more. That was the word, the operative word. We need more because, you know, in times like these today, there are so many, we hear about the gangs and we hear about, you know, the shootings and the killings. Just in Trenton, we have not enough music.
We
What
do
would
not.
what would you do today if, say, for instance, if they called you and said, Mr. Thomas Grice, we want to assign you to the arts department of the entire city of Trenton, and we need your expertise to bring these kids off the street. Would there be a certain technique you would use?
I would definitely go back.
You would go back.
I would go back and do the same technique. They have a school in my name, the Thomas Grice Music Academy.
Yes.
And our mission is to take the guns out of the hands of the students
Yes.
and put instruments.
Yes.
That would be my approach.
Yes.
I'm teaching as a vocation, and I always tell them how, I always say, ask a child, what is a life preserver? And they say, that's something you throw off a ship to save somebody. I say, well, this saxophone was my life preserver. I said, because once that was thrown out to me, I know that was the only thing that kept me out of trouble.
Yes. Yes.
That was my preserver.
Yes.
And I got of it, and I was able to be strong enough to say no when they say yes. When the gangs say yes, I would say no.
Yes.
Get yourself a mission and stick to it.
Yes. So you have students at your academy. Do you have a certain group that you teach personally?
No, I'm not doing hardly any of the teaching because I let them run it.
Okay.
And I just go and help them teach.
With the administrating skills?
They're the administrators. I just fill in. If their one is out, I go and teach in that place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you set up a criteria?
They set up the criteria, the curriculum.
Okay.
I set up the criteria of them bringing in the teachers,
Okay.
the type of teachers that I want.
Okay.
Those children that I have, society have abused them. Their parents, if they have a parent living together, or if their parents have abused them, or other people have abused them. I don't want any teacher coming in my program that is abusive person, who is an impatient person, who is a person that don't have the same dream that I have.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, because we are growing these young people, and they need love.
Well, you know, there's a saying, the fish always stinks from the head. So we know that your head is not stinking and that you are very particular about what you're bringing to these people. And
That's
I'm
right.
sure it's not just children, but children is your focus, or is it just
Children they are my
focus.
focus.
Okay.
They are very special to me.
do they pay to come in, or
No.
everything is free?
Everything is free.
Oh.
I don't think I've taught a private lesson for money in my life.
That is beautiful.
I was paid while I was teaching in public education a salary. And my philosophy, God gave me a gift. And so why not put
Share it,
that
yeah.
challenge? Yeah. I gave 3 workshops going around last week to elementary school, talking about my life and inspiring children to practice and how to practice. And as long as I can look in their face and see joy,
Yes.
the little smiles, and
Yes.
that, yeah,
Yes.
and I can, and I've learned that they can help me grow as well as
Inspire you as
that's
well.
right, inspire me to keep going on
Yes.
and on.
Because, you know, in my opinion of music, it does formulate a discipline, a form of discipline that you don't get anyplace else in
That's
life.
right. That's right.
You
Yes.
don't get it because it tappers into your ego. If you're playing and you make a mistake, who wants that? If you don't know the lyrics to the songs, if you don't know how to play the songs. So children are being disciplined with a sense of pride
That's
in
right.
what they do. Wouldn't you agree to that?
I would definitely agree because music has such a strong a teacher of discipline
Yes.
that it is, and a group you have to be able to group
Yes. Okay.
and how you develop as a
I know
group.
about those groups.
Yeah, and when you develop your art, and you can't come into this field thinking, I want to be a millionaire.
That's true.
You have to come into this field, with
Yes.
the love of
For the
performing.
work.
That's right.
Yes. The work is very important.
Right.
And I do I do teach, I'm a vocal coach. And I have, and I'm a consultant as well to upstart management companies. I have to travel to get there, so they are responsible for that. But in no ways did I charge them what a company on Park Avenue would charge them. But one of the things that I do understand, and I've learned, that if the children don't want to be there, you can't make them.
You
there.
can't make them.
You
No,
can't make
no,
them do
no,
that. And I've tried to find out other places that they could perform at a different level. Some want to be artists. Some don't want to sing. But they have parents who look at The Voice and American Idol. Tell me what you think about those shows, because you very rarely see a musician. You see singers only. Do you think there should be more shows for musicians, like American Idol or The Voice?
I think so, because that's very important. I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I give my workshop, I'm introducing instruments, people that accompany me. I say, but the strongest of all the instruments is one of the most beautiful instruments that can't be repaired if it's broken.
That's true. And we're talking about.
And we're talking about the voice.
Yes.
God gave us a voice.
Yes.
And not only that voice can be used to sing, that voice can be used to pray.
That's true.
Draw men unto them.
Yes.
The voice is a very important part of this.
Yes.
And I'm surprised that Trenton have not had girl groups.
Such as Patti LaBelle and the Labelles.
They never had that.
That is very true.
That's right. They never did.
I started, I was the one who, because of your teaching, I was the one who was the founder of that group.
I know that.
Yes, and discovering Nona in the church. We needed an alto singer in our group, and I went to Nona's church, and there she was singing. She said it was the only time she ever sang lead ever with her youth choir.
Wow.
She was planning to be a teacher, she told me. But I didn't find this out until last year, the desires that Nona had for education. But now Nona is an adjunct professor. We have both given seminars at the New York University. We both have been asked many times to give talks there on music. So we've both been blessed to share the knowledge that we have with students. And that's what I'm happy about the College of New Jersey, because we are delving into a historical place that many don't recognize. They look at Trenton because of the bad press. And we do know there are some bad things here, but it's bad everywhere.
Everywhere.
We are just the focal point because we're selling more newspapers. Now, I want to get to a very sensitive area right now. I know that we're in the educational compound right now, but I want to talk about what you experience with the Board of Ed, being a Black teacher in the city of Trenton. What kind of fight did you have to continue as a music teacher?
Well, I had many barriers many doors was closed on me. But I've learned that I had to have patience, and I had to learn to bite the bullet.
And what could you be a little more explicit, or is that too personal?
But what I had to do is if like I tell the kids, I had to first prepare myself. If that door opened for the opportunity, you can't just walk into the door and unprepared for it. You must have something to bring to the table.
Okay.
And that's the key.
And that's the thing they could not take from you.
Yeah, they couldn't take it
because the
from
level
me.
of your education.
And I'm a person people. I'm a person lover.
Okay.
I love people, and people don't frighten me.
Okay.
On what status they are. They could have doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, and all that.
Yes.
And I know what I can do.
Yes.
And I'm equipped.
So there were times, I know you spoke about it earlier, when you said you didn't follow protocol. So did the Board of Ed ever address you personally?
Oh,
or
many
did they?
times,
Or
many
did they?
times. But I was determined. I took the Muhammad Ali approach.
Okay.
I have my principles.
Okay.
Either you want me here to educate, I wasn't here for game playing.
Okay.
That was my philosophy. And when I told them that I'm here to teach,
Yes.
I'm not here to play ball.
Okay.
If you want that child educated, I'm here.
Yes.
Now, if you got certain little rules and regulations of playing politics or cutting this part short or using this place, you count me out.
Count you out.
Count me out.
And that does stand for the life you've led.
That's right. They knew
here.
me. They knew me.
Yes.
Yeah, they said, don't bother Grice.
Yeah, because the music was, you incorporated life's experience.
A life experience
with the children.
That's right. I was tempted to become the supervisors, vice principals, principals. I said, I don't want it. I belong in the classroom. I'm comfortable in the classroom.
Beautiful.
And so they knew that now if you do this and if you do this and you could, that's not me. I have to. I can't play a role.
Okay.
I can't play a
It's
role.
obvious because you have such a strength here that I'm supposed to be interviewing you, and I'm sitting here in awe, and I'm saying, when am I going to ask about this? When am I going to? But your stories have encouraged me, and I know as this film goes out today that it's going to help so many children, because sometimes, I mean, we could read our books daily, we could talk about what we want to do, but if the inspiration isn't there, if that power of spirit is not encouraged, many of us get lost along the way.
You fall like a leaf off of a tree.
Yes. And, I want to take you back one more time. I'll probably take you back about 3 times. But let's talk about Junior 5. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'll talk about Junior 5.
And I know you said you taught the 3rd grade, and then you went into, I was in what, the 6th grade? No, I was in the 7th grade.
7th, yeah, 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yes, that's where I was.
I taught, Junior 5 had elementary, 2nd, 3rd, and
yes,
4th.
Yes. Now the demographics, because I was asked this question.
Yeah.
The demographics of that area. We were there. We moved into the Junior 5 district
Uh-huh.
at the point that the city was sort of changing over, and there weren't many black teachers at junior 5. Were there more white teachers?
Yeah. Junior 5 had very few black teachers.
Yes.
And like I said, I was the only the first black instrumentalist to be hired. What they were using teachers that taught history, maybe who played piano. They used this person who was white. Maybe he teaching gym, but maybe he had the experience being in a high school band.
Yes.
But they was not going to hire
A black teacher.
a black teacher.
And Mr. Cooper, as I said before, he had the orchestra.
Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
Mr. Cooper was, no, Mr. Katz was the principal.
Mr. Katz. Yeah.
And Mr. Katz also, he was a Jewish man.
Yeah.
And I remember once my father brought me to school late, and he and my father exchanged some Hebrew phrases. But he also influenced us. He was very instrumental with the Dash family, with the children, because
I respect him so much.
yes. And
Mr. Katz.
he never made you feel bad.
That's right.
Even when he disciplined the children, he would say, "Are you supposed to be over here?"
Well, when my music supervisor for the whole city of Trenton, they didn't tell that man who I was. When he came over to see who was taking
Over the
yeah, and I saw the expression. I said, "I won't be here long."
no, but
I said, "But he's going to have to drag me out of here."
yes,
And Mr. Katz, I'd say he wrote the first year. I was over there, and I had 6 boys to come in and sign up. They came in, another teacher came in with them, and insist that they destroy my program because we didn't want him
to
here.
sabotage your teaching.
Yeah, to sabotage my program.
Yes.
So, and they happened to be the first 6 that started my program.
Oh my.
And we put on, they got there, and then at Thanksgiving, we played our first concert.
Yes.
And so when the supervisor came over there, he had to find another way to get through. And my wife was a record keeper. She kept record. All my evaluation was A. But here at the end, this guy was saying I wasn't doing anything. And then Mr. Katz called in, and my wife was right at my side. She played hooky for my school. Then she was at Parker School there.
Yes.
And she said, well, if he was that bad, why am I carrying these evaluations of A's of his teaching? And they gave up.
So Mr. Katz defended you.
That's right. He defended me.
Which was unusual at that time, because we were moving into the civil rights movement of Trenton.
Right.
How did that affect the music scene for you?
It was unstoppable.
Okay.
I knew that it had to move. It was the work of God that things. It couldn't stay stationary. It couldn't be the same.
So would you say you were the lead person or musician who cornered jazz into Trenton, never letting it go, playing some of the more famous places like Crossing In and Candlelight?
I would say definitely.
Yes. Could you tell us more about that? How?
Well, when I came to Trenton in the 50s, that was the place to be.
Which one? The Crossing In or the Candlelight?
Not a Candlelight. We had a place called the Fantasy Lounge.
A Fantasy Lounge.
We had the Citizen Club. We had the Citizen Club, Tuxedo Club. We had a place on Clegg Avenue, the
Sam Barges place.
Barges, Sam Barges.
Yes.
And there were places for a musician to play all over. And it was entertainment was going on from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Everyone was going out every night.
Yes.
And then there was a period. Then there was a period that we had big bands. I think we had about 2 or 3 big bands in the 50s, or Dixieland bands, swing bands, and small combos. And then we had a period when there was a lot of vocalists, female vocalists was here, male vocalists was here.
Okay.
And then, but music was flourishing.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden the bucket dropped out.
And that was because of the civil rights or because of
I think it was part of, no, I don't blame civil rights. I think it's because of economics.
Okay.
It was economics.
When they started to have a lot of riots around the country.
Yeah.
There were people who were afraid to come out and
That's right.
to see various bands, but you managed to keep music flowing through Trenton.
I'm still.
Yes. Could you name some of the musicians who work with you?
I started working with a group. You're taking me way back.
This is Trenton Makes music.
A drummer who taught here in Trenton State.
Yes.
And his brother Bobby Dino Cola. And I worked with, I bought Bob Smith out of the church into the clubs. I bought Richie Corbin.
Richie Corbin. I remember Richie
Corbin was a very exciting, exceptional organist.
Yes.
And exceptional person, a very, very highly intelligent person. And there was a girl by the name of Evelyn Murphy.
Evelyn Murphy.
It was a musical city.
Yes.
There was so much talent here.
And so discrimination never really affected.
No. Music has never been, even in the South.
Discriminatory. That's true because, you know, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., all those people. They walked into places. Harry Belafonte.
That's right.
And they all stood together. You know,
we had a club called Henderson Club. Was integrated. Before the city when the theaters was segregated.
It's called the Henderson?
It was called Henderson's downtown. We had a lot of jazz place. Now the Candlelight was a little club, had a little light on it.
Yes.
And they told me, you can't go in that place. But I went in there sat in with the horn players.
Yes.
I forgot who was playing in that. But I couldn't sit at the bar.
Okay.
But I sit in there with instruments. That's what I love about music.
Yes.
Music don't have that discrimination that other.
And that was acceptable. I mean, we knew that traveling through the South during the 60s.
That's right.
We would look out into the audience and there would be people of another persuasion.
That's right. But that was our biggest supporters.
And they were our big supporters. We accepted that because it was a way of life and a way of living. And yet we knew within our hearts that it would all change because we as musicians never separated.
No, we never separated. And they became faithful, and that was music. Music does have done so much for society.
It
so
really
much
has.
It
bridges the gap.
It bridges the gap.
You can tell them. I mean, you go to Europe, to China. You go to
all over.
The notes are the same.
The notes. Music is the universal language.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And we've had such a good time. I think I've covered all the questions. I do have some names here that I want to. I know they're going to have to do a lot of editing, right? Well, there are some names here that I see on number 13. Mr. Grice, you know this is my first podcast, right? So you're bearing with me.
Oh, yes.
Okay. There are some names here about your other prominent students. I know we touched on Clifford, and there's a name here, Kim.
Kim Covington.
There's a name, Scotty Miller.
Scotty Miller.
Winona Brooks.
Kim Covington is in Europe now.
Oh, okay.
She's an outstanding vocalist. I had Kim in my theory class. I think Kim is in Italy now.
Okay.
Yeah, she's been in Italy for the last 20 years.
And Scotty Miller?
Scotty had him now. Scotty's in the church.
Okay. And we have Instant Funk, of course.
Yeah, all of them. David Jones and all those.
They're still playing around the area.
Still around.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we have someone here, Winona Brooks.
Winona. Yeah, Winona's one of my students.
A jazz singer.
A jazz singer.
And then we have Christian McBride, a jazz
Christian McBride. I had an organization in Philadelphia through Bill Cosby.
Oh,
working for Bill Cosby. That I was on the Bet Your Life show with him in the
okay.
band, and he found my organization called the Tony Williams Mount Airy Culture Center,
Okay.
which was a 501c uh, musical program that is similar to the Thomas Grice
School. Mm-hmm.
Academy. And Christian McBride was one of the students. And out of the Christian McBrides, not only Christian McBride was in our program, one of the most outstanding teachers here in drama, Evans, Professor Evans. His son, Orrin Evans, was a student in that program. And then we had another young lady that I taught the flute, Erica Alexander.
Okay.
She became a member of a sitcom called Living Single. She was Erica. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
beautiful.
she comes back, and then we had another organ player. We had so many outstanding students.
Well, you are, I would call the president of us all.
No, I'm not the president.
The president of us all, in the sense that Dad always told me that whatever city officials there were, they become your father. If you're the mayor, you're the father of the city. If you're the councilman, you're the uncle. So he broke it down in different phases of their protection.
Sarah, I just love what I have done, and I know that it's not over yet.
That's beautiful. That's
It's not
beautiful.
over yet. I just have that feeling that God has given me at my age to continue to do it.
And it's so inspiring.
Yeah.
It encourages us to know that you're full of life. You still want to go on and be all that you can be. And I'm grabbing onto your coattail because you have inspired me today. And I'm sure you're going to inspire the many students
Love you madly.
that listen to this. And I just want to say, may God continue to bless you tremendously.
Thank you so much.
And may he always shine his ever powerful light over you.
Thank you.
And your family. And just don't forget us when, they put that big New York Times cover story on you. Remember
I'm a humble person.
Remember little Sarah.
Oh yes.
7 of 13. I thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, are there any final words you'd like to say to the students?
Just keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Well,
Don't let nothing stop you. Keep going.
Well, Trenton Makes Music has definitely been inspired by you today. It's our first podcast. I'm nervous, but I'm true to my word. I said I was going to talk to Mr. Grice until he satisfied all of our souls. And hopefully you all will come back for our next.
I would love to come back.
Oh, we would love to have you, and perhaps we could have the band. You could put together a selection of the musicians that you want and some singers. And choose
me.
I would love, I've yet to sing with the band, so we must do this.
We can do that.
I do some great Dinah Washington songs. What a difference a day makes, 24 little hours. Yes, I'm ready for you, Mr. Grice.
All right.
Okay.
We'll be ready for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I forgot one thing. I need to ask the question to Mr. Clifford Adams' son about what he would say today. So is there something you'd like to say about our program that maybe, or some questions you'd like to ask Mr. Grice about your father as a student? And,
Well, I know that my dad talked very highly of Mr. Grice all of my life. At one point when we had moved into my dad's house in Ewing near Clive Court, we were right around the corner from Mr. Grice at that point. And at that time, he would try to get over to Mr. Grice's here and there just to touch up on some things. I didn't actually know that he helped to launch this Trenton Makes Music. I didn't know that, but he had his hands in in a lot of things. You
Yes.
know, he was constantly just trying to better himself as well as the community. Since I was little, you know, he was constantly not just trying to better myself and my brother as musicians, because I was a trumpet player in my elementary school days. I was fortunate to get an instrument in my hand when I was in 3rd or 4th grade, if I can remember, and as well as my brother. And I chose the trumpet because it just felt, I felt, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I felt more comfortable with the trumpet. My younger brother felt more comfortable with the trombone, which was what my dad's forte was. But he was constantly trying to better our sound and get us to practice and everything. And then he would have us around when he was in the community doing those different little programs.
Yes. So he spoke about Mr. Grice's help.
Yeah.
I'm sure he instilled some of his knowledge into your spirit and mine. And is there anything particular that you'd like to?
Well, one thing that resonates that you said and that Mr. Grice also said was how important it is to stay humble. My dad had these teachings, these spiritual teachings. He was a follower of the science of spirituality. And with that, one of the teachings was humility. And that's something that not only him, but my mom also, who's sitting over here, they instilled that in us to really stay humble, and that we can't just be normal, you know, being African American males growing up in this society. We can't just be normal. And so when it came to practicing an instrument, when it came to doing our homework, when it came to grades, my mom was a teacher, so everything had to be, we had to go above and beyond.
Yes.
And
yes.
it almost became like second nature.
Yes.
You know, and so even if a class was hard and we got a C and we did our best, it was like, we could have did better than that. You know what I mean? Or if we listened to our instrument after it was played back to us, it's something that my dad just instilled in us. Like, you can always do better. You can always perfect. You can always perfect yourself. Yeah.
That's a wonderful, wonderful tribute to your father.
Yeah.
And we have someone else who's a
Angelo,
student. Angelo, do you mind coming down to the mic?
He
we
was in the band at the Trenton High together.
Oh, you were in the band at Trenton High with
And
Mr.
they both
Grice.
played the same instrument.
Okay. Angelo?
Actually, I remember meeting Cliff. Mr. Wortman was the music director at the time. And Cliff was auditioning for the concert band. And so we were in high school together. And it's funny. I went to Berklee College of Music, and I taught music for 10 years in the city of Trenton. Then after 10 years, I always liked taking things apart, so I got into electronics and technology. So I left music, and it's funny, when I left music, I really stopped listening and stopped playing. It's probably something I shouldn't have done. But then about 2.5 years ago, I met a drummer in a parking lot, and he was putting his drums in the car, and we started talking. And I asked him, did he play many gigs? And he said, sure, yeah, I do. I said, well, I used to play trombone. He said, well, you did? He said, I have a concert coming up. I said, who's the trombone player? With the trombone player? He said, Clifford Adams. I said, I went to school with Cliff. So I started listening to music again. I went to see Cliff play. It was the day before Thanksgiving, I think 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did he play.
Yes, yes. I saw Cliff play downtown at the Marriott at the time before it changed its name.
Yes.
And I was so surprised to run into him. And Clifford also played on my first inspirational CD. He played trombone on This Light of Mine. I'll try and get a copy for you so that you can hear his solo, okay? So it's so wonderful to have you all remember Clifford in such high esteem, which he just deserves. And Mr. Grice having touched both of their lives in such a high spiritual way. What would you say to them today to help them to keep going?
Beg your pardon?
What would you say to the two young men out in here, Angelo and...
Angelo, I adopted Angelo as one of my sons. I got so many sons. I always tell him to keep that self-assurance that he can do anything he wants. He can climb any mountain he wants if he want to climb it. He's an excellent person. He's a wonderful person, a personality, and he's a prime example of a young man that he's very clean, he's very humble,
Yes.
And his philosophy is such a great one that I take him to the schools that when talk to kids, and I always like for him to be on the scene so he can express himself.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
wonderful.
he's
And
very,
Clifford's son is, you must not lose touch with Mr. Grice. He's your godfather, so to speak.
Right.
Yes.
Well, after my dad's passing, it kind of took a toll on me, socially speaking. You know, I just kind of distanced myself from everybody and just had to just reevaluate myself and reevaluate life and what I found was most important to me, and in doing that, I found out how to move forward, and what that thing is my passion for music. You know, and I know that my dad, he wouldn't want me to just be grieving and just upset and just not moving forward with my life. And so I found my passion for music again, because it was something that I had before, but I kind of lost. And now that I found it again, I'm just trying to manifest that dream and just make things happen for myself and the community, the Trenton music community.
Beautiful.
Really.
Well, I'm always there for you.
Well, I know that. You made sure that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And help it go down to the community,
That's
to the Thomas Grice Academy, and be a part of that. We could use more men like you, young men like you, and teaching some of the younger boys to also come into the academy. Bring some of the young people from your neighborhood and encourage them as you were encouraged.
I'm no expert, you know, but
you don't have to be. You just have to have. You just have to show that love. Mr. Grice can tell you that.
right.
Yes, yes. I think it would be a great thing.
That would be great.
Yes, yeah.
And myself, I'm a vocalist, and so I'm not an instrumentalist like I used to. I used to play the trumpet, you know, and I played at the Orange Crush marching band at Lincoln University for a year, but I'm just focusing on.
Well, if you're a
being
vocalist,
singer.
you can definitely. I could help with that.
I was taking notes in my head as you were speaking about it. So.
Yes. So come and I'll make sure you have
And
my
we
information.
have Mrs. Adams right over here.
And then Mrs. Adams.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it's so wonderful that
That's
you would
me.
come here and talk. And I'm sure you've had some Thomas Grice experiences during the times of the music scene going
He's an
on.
administrator in the school district.
So could you tell us? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Grice.
Well, Mr. Grice, I want to speak on him first.
Okay.
Mr. Grice was one of the first people that Clifford wanted to introduce me to. And I had actually forgot that you went to Wilberforce University because that's my alma mater. And it was very nice to meet he and his wife. His wife is my sorority sister.
Oh, Delta.
And so we were pretty close, and Clifford enjoyed going over there, and I enjoyed going over there also. And then they had two sons, and we ended up having two sons. We had a lot in common.
Yes, yes.
I was with Clifford for over 19 years and did a lot of traveling all over the world with him and singing jazz with him. And we started up a group here called Inner Flight, and along with Ted Plunkett, which is another one of Mr. Grice's students. And so basically, that's what I have to say, because Mr. Grice was Clifford's heart. I mean, even once he started getting sick or whatever, he still wanted to be around Mr. Grice, and he still wanted to work with the community
Yes.
as much as he possibly could. And he
So you were
continued
part
until
of-
he couldn't.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, just knowing that you two were part of the music community with jazz in the city of Trenton, it means that you have a strong place here as well, and you have an offspring that that the two of you created together. What would you say to encourage your son to continue and to work through the whole process of being who he wants to be in music?
Well, I am going to say to my son, strive for excellence. Strive for excellence. Always do your best. And I think that's what his dad would say also.
Yes. It's beautiful. Thank you so
Do
much.
your best, and always keep your mentors around. Stay in
Yes.
touch with Mr. Grice and Uncle Ted.
And now Aunt Sarah.
And Aunt
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. We appreciate this so very much. As we said, this is our first podcast. I'm learning how to be a better hostess. And we had a great teacher here today. No better person than to get me started and to get you to encourage us to keep going. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well,
thank
you.
everyone, Professor Kim Pearson, Professor Teresa. We have our team here, Jean. I'll forget all the names, but these are the Teresa and Kim are the Kim who had this dream in her heart for a very long time to create this music program, and then she met gullible me, inviting me to do a seminar at the school, and I'm all in. So I thank you so much, and for your confidence in me as a host. I hope that I will be able to give the school all that they need, and I know it only comes through prayer. So I'm praying for you and the whole program, and especially for Mr. Dr. Thomas Grice.
doctor.
No, Mr. Dr. Thomas Grice.
But Kim
Yes.
can call on me anytime.
Yes, same.
Yeah,
Yes.
the same. I'll be glad to help you. Because you've done a magnificent job.
Yes.
If anything I can help with you, just pick up the phone. I'm right around the corner.
Thank you, Mr. Grice. I appreciate
Thank
it
you.
so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.